everybody, and welcome back to ZakIsCinema. If you are violently lonely and have no one to talk to about movies, look at you, buddy. Come on and take a seat. Welcome. You've been welcome. Welcome home, I should say. But yes, today we are continuing the segment of the first-time watch reviews. So for anybody new joining us, the first-time watch reviews, the basic idea of it is for myself, to take a look back at some older movies, some older, more popular movies, taking a look back at them from a perspective of someone who's never grown up with these movies, so looking at it through that non-nostalgic, non-kind of biased viewpoint. Today we are going to be talking about, point to my other cool picture again, Terminator 2 Judgment Day. Now, Terminator 2 Judgment Day, the plot follows the malevolent AI Skynet as it sends a Terminator back in time to 1995 to kill the future leader of the human resistance known as John Connor. However, the resistance also sends back a less advanced, reprogrammed Terminator to protect John and the future of humanity. Terminator 2 Judgment Day came out in 1991, directed by James Cameron again, who of course directed the first movie. It was also written by Cameron and William Wisher. In this sequel, it is starring Arnold Schwarzenegger, Linda Hamilton, and Robert Patrick. With all my reviews, I kind of like to look back and talk about why I'm even talking about this movie. So again, it fits the category of the first-time watch review, and I've always heard that this is kind of like a step above Terminator 1, so for those who really enjoy the first one, this is hailed as even greater of an accomplishment, even greater of a movie than that first one. I've always heard that this movie is like bigger and better, but not in those other blockbuster ways where you hear bigger isn't always better. This I've kind of heard is bigger and better than the first and improves upon everything set up in the first. So I was very excited to check this one out. Jumping into the positives for Terminator 2, or the things that I just enjoyed on this first time watch. First of all, I really like the iconic music. I noticed this time they also put it through the opening and end credits. I forget if they did that in the first one. They might have, but this is that theme music of the Terminator is very prevalent in this movie, and I like how it kind of starts off in those opening credits because it just it elevates it already, makes it feel a little bit bigger, a little bit more grand. It's so epic. It fits the tone, the vibe of the movie, and I could just get a sense that it has that machine-esque kind of quality to the music, if that makes sense. It reminds me of something like a Terminator would listen to get amped up before a killing. Jumping into my next positive here, someone who didn't really grow up with these movies, I like how it starts off so similar to the first movie. Normally I think that would be a negative, kind of rehashing the steps of the first one, but this one, it's purposeful. It introduces our characters very similar to the first movie, but kind of flips it on his head. It almost makes you feel kind of comfortable with the story. You're like, oh, here's another action movie, we're just doing the same shit again, I know what to expect, but it flips it. They're both coming back the same way, but Arnold is actually the hero, the protector, and then the T-1000 character is actually our main villain in this movie. And from my understanding, I think they actually kept that a secret throughout the marketing before it came out, which is so cool, and I feel like a lot of newer movies could kind of learn from that way of marketing. They didn't feel the need to ruin that twist or say hey, we're doing something different, come back to see Arnold's the hero this time. They get you there, they get you watching the movie, and then you experience it in real time. Terminator 2 also has such a nice sense of humor throughout, and it's never to the point where, in typical blockbusters where they might just throw humor, jokes all over, and it kind of takes you out of the moment. It never takes me out of the moment in this. They toe that balance very nicely where it never takes you out of the movie, and it's not diminishing some of our more serious scenes. Sarah Connor's character, again in this movie, like I talked about in the first one, is incredible, and I like how they find ways to expand upon her and do something different. She starts off so unhinged and in that mental health facility. She's jacked. You could tell she's been through some shit. You could tell the first movie actually had an impact on her, and we see that in her introduction, especially in that recorded tape scene with the doctor as she's explaining like what's coming in the future, bits and pieces that happen in the first movie. Like, her acting is so incredible in this movie. It never feels like she's going over the top, but she still fits that unhinged character that she's going for with trauma. But then at the same time, they do something different with her. Like, you look at Sarah from the first movie to this movie, completely different, and then they carry on that character arc throughout this movie. I like how she's smart and recognizes the danger in this world. Another example of just Sarah's character and then her relationship with other characters is a cool scene in parts throughout the movie with Sarah and her son John Connor's relationship. It starts off very cold and distant, and even when John first gets to the mental hospital with Arnold's Terminator to rescue her, to take her out of that situation, she's like not even happy or rejoicing that she sees her son again. Like, she instead just instantly gets angry and frustrated at him for risking his life. It's accurate with the character. It's accurate with what she's been through. Like, that's how she would respond. And I like those small attention to details as well. Another positive in this movie is, again, the practical effects used. Most of them. We'll get into a couple, but the majority of the practical effects in this movie are incredible. The action set pieces look amazing and hold up very, very well. Like, it looks like a modern movie. For example, that bus chase scene when Arnold jumps off the bridge in his motorcycle and like lands on the street. That scene is so amazing because Arnold's like face and character are present and in front of the camera the entire time. I'm not even sure how they like film something like that, because like when he like lands on the pavement, you know, sometimes modern movies you could tell the characters like CG, they'll look like glossy and rubbery. Like, it looks real and still holds up so well. Another positive here is I also think the T-1000 villain is actually a better villain than Arnold was in the first movie. Maybe not like acting or like character wise. I think it's just an upgrade, right? It's a more imposing threat. And I kind of like how Arnold is in this hero role and we get someone new, someone more advanced in the villain role. The T-1000, he's quicker, he's faster, he's more advanced, and I just think Arnold movie works better as that protector role. So I love the twist that they do, playing with your expectations, playing with your knowledge from the first movie, and yet they find a way to still make that twist happen, make Arnold's character better, and make the villain even better too. I think the idea of like having a liquid metal Terminator is so genius. It's like such a simple thing. It makes sense for an even more advanced Terminator. And then again, like I was talking about in the first movie, it still has that, it helps with the tension, right? Because this new T-1000 Terminator is even more intense, more advanced than the regular Terminator. So it keeps that ongoing threat for our characters. I also like how they deliver a lot of the exposition through Arnold's character, right? Because he's a Terminator artificial intelligence character, so he would be delivering lines like that in such an exposition heavy way. So it never really makes me think like, oh, this is just exposition dump scene, like who cares? But it's coming from Arnold, and it's how a robot would explain a situation. They also do a great job at increasing the size of the movie without losing its message, without taking away from the characters. For example, there's a really cool like nuking dream sequence that feels so big, and it just helps to elevate the sense of size of this movie. I just love how Cameron visualizes that as this very dark, biblical, end times, revelation kind of feel to it. There's also a cool scene, the helicopter chase scene that looks like it was released from a movie like within the past couple years. Like, you could tell it's practical, you could tell they took time with it, had real stunt people doing it. Another example of great practical effects is that ending explosion scene. It reminded me of the scene out of The Dark Knight when the Joker like blows up the hospital, like that real feeling. You could tell they actually exploded the building. I also really love the ending of this movie and how they decide to save the future and kind of wrap everything up. Like, it's so smart, and it just wraps everything up that was set up in the first one and the second one. With the Dyson guy, guy, that scientist guy, or he was the guy that helped create a large portion of Skynet, leading to the inevitable war that's coming. And they choose not to kill him, but instead Arnold talks to him. Dyson's character ends up saving everyone by sacrificing himself and pulling that detonator button to save everyone. Not only does it wrap up every single plot point, it helps protect our characters from that future that we've been fighting and running from, but it also is just such a great character moment for Dyson, another great character arc for just our little side character too, and it keeps that theme of humanity and what makes us human. But then you get that iconic line from Arnold saying like, I know why you cry, but it's something I can never do. It's an emotional moment. It keeps that theme of humanity, what makes us human, AI, the future, technology taking over, keeps those themes, those messages, while also wrapping everything up that we needed in this movie. But jumping into my negatives here, I'll just say like I enjoyed it more than the first one, but I feel like there are some more specific issues I kind of had with it. Like I was saying, most of the effects, most of the action set pieces hold up so well and are so impressive even into today's standards. However, when the dated effects start going, it's definitely dated. For example, the liquid metal T-1000 Terminator. Most of the scenes he looks really good. Even the iffy practical, or even the iffy like CGI, you could tell in the early 90s they were pushing CGI a little bit more, but it just wasn't there. I think you can kind of see that in this movie. For example, with the T-1000, the bullet shots to him, they reminded me of like leftover like Thanksgiving storage containers, like the tinfoil ones when he's getting like shot. Like you could tell they just like scotch taped an aluminum bowl to him. So there's like stuff like that, stuff when he's like morphing, it looks fake, so it does take me out of it a little bit. One of my negatives is with the character of John Connor. I understand why he is the way that he is, this like bratty kid going against the norm, not listening, thinks he knows it. Like, I get it. Your mom's been through some shit. She's locked up now. Everyone thinks she's crazy and you're her offspring. So I get it. It makes sense. But just like his acting, his lines, and the way he delivers them just comes off as over the top, cringy, even more bratty than I think they intended him to come off. And it just it takes me out of it a little bit, because the whole plot and everything around these movies center around John Connor's character, because he's this hero that's coming to save us in the future, almost like this Jesus Christ prophet. And then we see a lot of him in this movie, and I like some of the scenes with him and Arnold. I just think his acting's not that good. A lot of his line delivery's not that good, and unfortunately it just doesn't make me like sympathize with him. Like, I'd much rather just have Sarah in this movie much more than John's character. I think it kind of reminds me of what Cameron did in Avatar 2 with that annoying like kid character. I think his name's like Spider or something. Similar vibes, just the way they deliver their lines, how they come across, how it's almost not unwatchable, but it's just like any scene that he was in without Sarah, like I was just like, ugh, like just get me through this. And again, kind of like I was talking about in our first Terminator review, I don't know if I'm on an island with this, because anytime I look up this scene or talk about or see people talk about it, like, this is never brought up as a negative, but I'm just not a fan of how these Terminator movies end off on such a high note in the third act and then leave you off with these like weird kind of unnecessary narration scenes. Like, it leaves off on a high note with Arnold's sacrifice, such a beautiful human moment that doesn't require a lot of dialogue, and I think that's what makes it such a special scene too. And then you get that concluded, everything's wrapped up, and then it goes right into this like cringy narration scene. And at the end of this one, Sarah delivers it again. I have it here. She's saying, "The unknown future rolls towards us. I face it for the first time with a sense of hope, because a machine, a Terminator that can learn the value of human life." Like, it's just like, and like, I never see it brought up as a negative, and I honestly don't understand why. That line that I just read you is literally just re-explaining the entire plot and themes and messages of the movie. It's not showing us, it's telling us, especially after we just saw it. Like, we can come to these conclusions on our own. I just feel like both Terminator 1 and 2 do this, where they leave off on such a high note, wrap everything up so nicely, and then they're like, well, in case you missed it, we have here our lovely character Sarah Connor that's going to reiterate these themes and messages to you just in case you missed it. It doesn't ruin it. It never made me hate it or anything. It's just, it feels so unnecessary, and I hate how the lines are written. That's just me. I'm sorry here. But those were really my only couple of negatives. I really enjoyed this movie, and I do believe I like it a little bit more than the first one for a different way. It removes a lot of those horror elements and sticks with more of an action approach. So I love how Terminator 1 gives you something different. Terminator 2 gives you a entirely different movie, even though they are kind of similar. They do a lot of things different. So I enjoyed it more than the first. It felt like this was a movie that Cameron wanted to kind of make in the first movie, but now finally had the budget, the recognition to do it in his second movie. Everything felt bigger and better. Arnold's character was better. Sarah Connor's character was better. Everything leaves off on such a high note, and I love how it wraps everything up so perfectly. And so my rating for this movie is I own it on Blu-ray. I will inevitably upgrade it to the 4K. I think it's a movie worth owning and rewatching. I think this will go on one of my lists of favorite action movies. So I was really happy and excited to talk about this one for another first time watch review. That's about it, guys. Let me know your thoughts down below. I appreciate anybody who's watching these first couple initial videos as I'm trying to figure everything out. I appreciate anyone watching, sticking through this long. Comment down below any other first time watch review movies you'd recommend, or maybe a movie I've seen before. I could do a nostalgic review of that movie. Comment down below what you might like to see in the future. Keep a lookout for new videos in the future as well. And again, all the people who are lonely and like to talk movies, you are welcomed here. Thank you, guys. Keep a lookout for more videos coming soon.